Hey everybody, my name is Marcus Spalletta. I am lecturing on behalf of Dr. Verity. I am her PhD student running a weight loss study. And yes, I'll just be guest lecturing for vitamin K. So, vitamin K is a fat-soluble vitamin. But first, before we dive into that, let's go through some of the fat-soluble vitamins you have already learned. So, vitamin A. Vitamin A can be found in animal sources as retinoids and can be found in plant sources as carotenoids. There are three functional forms. Retinal with an A helps with vision. Retinol with an O helps with growth. And retinoic acid helps with gene expression. Vitamin A deficiency leads to xerophthalmia, which is eye dryness and night blindness. Too much vitamin A while pregnant can lead to teratogenic babies and birth defects. Vitamin E mainly comes from plant oil, seeds, and nuts. The main function is an antioxidant. Vitamin E deficiency leads to hemolytic anemia, which is red blood cell degradation outpaces red blood cell generation. Too much vitamin E leads to increased bleeding. So, vitamin K. Vitamin K was named after the Danish word coagulation, which was discovered in the 1920s by Dr. H. Dam. So the experiment, they fed chicks a low-fat and low-cholesterol diet. These chicks became hemorrhagic, and their blood would not clot. From that, they found out that the vitamin that they were missing was vitamin K. The structure of vitamin K is made up of a naphthoquinone ring structure, and attached is a 613 isoprenoid unit. Sorry, guys. There are three forms of vitamin K. The synthetic form, which is found in supplements, is menadione. The plant form is phylloquinone. And menaquinone is found in animal products. This is typically by intestinal bacteria synthesizing it. So, food sources of vitamin K, the richest food sources are plant products, are leafy green vegetables. Here at the top we see kale, turnip greens, liver, which typically has a lot of vitamins in general, cauliflower, broccoli, soybean oil, Cheerios. So, like I said, plant products are rich in vitamin K, particularly leafy green vegetables. And like we said, there are animal products that supply vitamin K in the menaquinone form, but these are from intestinal bacteria that synthesize it, and there are very small amounts found in cereal. Vitamin K is generally not a fortified vitamin. So to bring it home, phylloquinone can be found in plant products. Menaquinone can be found in animal products synthesized by intestinal bacteria. And menadione can be found in supplements. In terms of cooking, 20 to 30% of vitamin K is lost during the heating process. The vitamin will begin to degrade at around 150 degrees Celsius. So, vitamin K, some of it will be lost during the cooking process. So, of course, raw vegetables are the best source of vitamin K. Commercial processing also leads to a loss in vitamin K, particularly juicing. Very high losses of vitamin K while processing fruit and vegetables for juicing is lost. Up to 75% vitamin K is lost in the process. This is not the same though if you decide to juice at home with vitamin K rich fruits and vegetables. Home juicing appears to have little effect on the loss of vitamin K. So, in terms of absorption, vitamin K is found in its free form or supplement form, phyloquinone from plants, menaquinone from meat, and menadione from supplements. And it kind of follows the same path as fat and lipids are absorbed. Remember, it is a fat-soluble vitamin. So, vitamin K is incorporated into the micelle, absorbed by passive diffusion. In the enterocyte, it is incorporated into a chylomicron. The chylomicron transports through the lymphatic system into the circulation. And these are delivered by lipoproteins into the tissue. So LDL and HDL deliver vitamin K into the tissue. So, vitamin K delivery to tissue is mediated by lipoprotein receptor uptake. In terms of transport and storage, the primary storage site for the primary storage site for vitamin K is the liver. Small quantities are found in other tissues like the heart, lungs, and kidney. But just letting you know, usually fat-soluble vitamins have high body pools, but vitamin K is actually on the low side. It can only be stored in 50 to 100 micrograms. And just as comparison, this is lower than the water-soluble vitamin B12. The turnover time for vitamin K is typically 2.5 hours. So, vitamin K is taken to the liver, but only menadiones, which is the supplemental form, undergo metabolism. Phyloquinones and menaquinones do not undergo metabolism in the liver. What happens to menadiones is an alkyl group is attached to them, which makes them biologically active. So, the three main functions of vitamin K are blood clotting, bone formation, and osteoporosis prevention. In blood clotting, it deals with the carboxylation of glutamic acid residues. In bone formation, it is a coenzyme for these vitamin K dependent proteins for bone formation and breakdown. And there are some studies to back up the claim that it is good for osteoporosis prevention, which we'll review. This is just an overview over the blood clotting cascade. You will have to know this for the exam. But for now, we'll go over this, but for now just know that the result is fibrin, which is an insoluble fiber. So this fibrin, it incorporates red blood cells and platelets to the site of the wound and helps create this blood clot. So Verity likes to use these chain of event questions on tests, so definitely know this whole entire sequence. But to begin, the inactive clotting factor X is first generated. Factor X is then transformed into factor XA, or the active form of factor X. Factor XA converts prothrombin into thrombin. Thrombin then catalyzes the proteolysis of fibrinogen to yield fibrin. Lastly, fibrin stabilizing factors cross-link fibrin to form the insoluble blood clot. So, along with what this diagram shows, factor K is also involved in the reactions to make factor 7 and factor 9 into their active forms. So as you can see at the bottom left there, vitamin K is needed to convert factor 7 to factor 7A and factor 9 to factor 9A. This is upstream of this blood clotting cascade of events. But still know that vitamin K is needed to make factor 7 into factor 7A and factor 9 into factor 9A. Along with making factor X into factor XA or factor 10 into factor 10A, as well as prothrombin to thrombin. So again, vitamin K is needed to convert factor 7 to factor 7A, factor 9 to factor 9A, factor 10 to factor 10A, and prothrombin to thrombin. The A indicates their active forms. Vitamin K and calcium, excuse me. We'll go over in a second why calcium is important. So, how does this work? Vitamin K in its reduced form is involved with the carboxylation of glutamic acid residues on specific blood clotting factors. So here, vitamin K acts as a coenzyme for this enzyme to help transfer the carboxyl group. So, vitamin K dependent gamma glutamyl carboxylase. The result is gamma carboxyglutamic acid in peptides. So as you can see, they added a carboxyl group right here, and by adding this carboxyl group, it makes a functional change that allows calcium to bind to this. So the regeneration of vitamin K. Vitamin K is oxidized after it participates in this reaction, so it needs to be reduced in order to continue doing this. So reduced vitamin K is KH2. The regeneration occurs by this vitamin K cycle, which we are about to go through in a second. So here is vitamin K in its oxidized form, the vitamin K quinone. It reacts with quinone reductase. This enzyme reduces vitamin K. It should be noted that anticoagulant medications such as warfarin inhibit this activity. So warfarin inhibits quinone reductase. So this reduced form is produced so vitamin K can continue participating in these reactions. And as you can see, the double bonded O's turned into hydroxyl groups. So the second function of vitamin K is bone formation. Vitamin K is also involved in the carboxylation of osteocalcin. Osteocalcin is a protein hormone. So, osteoblasts secrete osteocalcin. Please remember osteoblasts help in bone formation. We are going to see osteoclasts, which help in bone breakdown, but osteoblasts help in bone formation, the creation of bone. It is involved with the bone matrix formation. It facilitates the binding of calcium in the hydroxyapatite lattice. So vitamin K is also required for the inactive form of MGLA protein. It carboxylates it for its activation. MGLA protein or matrix GLA protein or MGP can be found in bone, dentin, or cartilage. We're not sure what its precise function is, but we know that it's involved with the mobilization of calcium. So in this diagram, remember how I said osteoblasts help create bone? Osteoclast is shown here breaking down old bone, which releases the calcium and allows for MGP to mobilize it. So it is part of MGP and helps mobilize calcium. So the third function of vitamin K is osteoporosis prevention. So we're going to go through the meta-analysis. So this meta-analysis shows 6 studies that show that vitamin K at 45 milligrams per day for 12 to 18 months. The population for this study was postmenopausal women, and what happened was vitamin K at this dose lowered the risk of vertebral fractures by 60% and lowered the risk of hip fractures by 77%. Thus, vitamin K may be an effective treatment for osteoporosis. But please know that I said 45 milligrams. This is a very high dose. 45 milligrams per day is 500 times the adequate intake. The adequate intake, just for your reference, is in micrograms. And we'll see that in just a moment. Vitamin K is excreted through the feces. Vitamin K is metabolized into various metabolites, and then through bile, it goes into the feces, and that's how it's excreted and exits the body. So the vitamin K DRIs, so for males, 120 micrograms per day. For females, 90 micrograms per day. And please remember, it is an AI. This is an adequate intake. And the reason for that is there's a distinct lack of data for vitamin K requirements. These values were based on the highest intake of vitamin K in the US. As we mentioned before, menaquinone is synthesized by intestinal bacteria, but the contribution of intestinal bacteria is still not well understood. In terms of deficiency, vitamin K deficiency is pretty rare in healthy adults. Populations that may be affected are people with fat malabsorption disorders. Of course, this is a fat-soluble vitamin, so people who are having trouble absorbing fat may be at risk for the deficiency. Also, newborn infants, because of low bacteria in their gut, as we said, menaquinone is synthesized by gut bacteria. Also, people who are treated chronically with antibiotics have a low bacteria count, so they are also at risk for vitamin K deficiency. So symptoms of vitamin K deficiency, this happens when less than 10 micrograms per day are consumed. The first sign is levels of prothrombin increased. So if you think about the blood clotting cascade, prothrombin never gets converted to thrombin, so it makes sense that we have high levels of prothrombin. Other factors in the cascade are not activated. Therefore, after prothrombin, none of those factors are ever created or activated. So vitamin K is helps with coagulation. Therefore, the deficiency of vitamin K is uncontrollable bleeding episodes. So, toxicity, like we said, vitamin K is an AI. So, the normal intake is 90 to 120 micrograms per day. There is no tolerable upper limit established. The phyloquinone form, which again is from plants, there hasn't been seen any toxicity of doses of 10 to 20 times the adequate intake. The supplemental form, menadione, does have adverse effects if taken too much. Menadione overdose may cause liver damage, but this is seen at a dose of 1,000 times the adequate intake. So symptoms of menadione toxicity is liver damage, hyperbilirubinemia, which is too much bilirubin in the blood. Bilirubin is produced when red blood cells break down and leads to jaundice, or the yellowing of skin. So that's it for vitamin K. Real quick, we're going to go through the fat-soluble vitamins that you've gone through thus far. Vitamin A is in animal sources, retinoids. In plant sources, carotenoids. There are 3 forms: retinal, which helps with vision; retinol, which helps with growth; and retinoic acid, which helps with gene expression. Vitamin A deficiency leads to xerophthalmia, which is eye dryness and night blindness. Too much vitamin A while pregnant can lead to teratogenic babies, which were babies who were missing their limbs and have birth defects. Vitamin E, the main source is from plant oil seeds and nuts. The main function is an antioxidant. Vitamin E deficiency leads to hemolytic anemia, which is when red blood cell degradation outpaces red blood cell generation. And too much vitamin E leads to increased bleeding. So you guys just went through vitamin K. So the main form of vitamin K, it can be found in plants in the phyloquinone form. It can be found in animals in the menaquinone form, which is when it's synthesized by intestinal bacteria. And it can be found in the menadione form, which is the supplement form. Its main function is blood clotting and bone formation, and also helps in osteoporosis prevention. The deficiency is hemorrhage, too much bleeding. Remember, increased thrombin is a side effect because the cascade stops there. The toxicity is liver damage, which can only be achieved by taking supplements, which are vitamin K in the menadione form. This leads to hyperbilirubinemia and jaundice. So, thank you everybody. That is all I have for today. Have a great day.